Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln is Obama's role model. A portrait of Lincoln even hangs in his office in the White House. "Without Lincoln, I probably wouldn't be sitting here," Obama said, looking at the photo of Lincoln. Early life of Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was born on February 12, 1809. At that time, the third President of the United States. At that time, Kentucky, the state where Lincoln was born, was one of the cleanest countries. You can read here to learn about the history of history in America. Lincoln grew up in a religious family who in 1816, the Lincoln family moved to Indiana, a free state. The Lincoln family's relocation was based on a land dispute in Kentucky, shortly before their 15 years living in Indiana, the Lincoln family moved to southern Illinois. Starting from here, Lincoln realized the same phenomena around him. It all started with Lincoln joining the Whig Party. This party is very critical in America. Growing up in a healthy family made Lincoln also dislike the system. Lincoln also felt the same as the Whig Party. Lincoln then ran in the legislative elections for Illinois, and won in 1834. Lincoln had big visions for success to the stakes. Lincoln self-taught law and passed the bar exam in 1836. He then moved to the Illinois capital, Springfield. Early attention to slavery in America. On November 7, 1837, an abolitionist, supporter of the reaction named Elijah Lovejoy was killed by a pro-mob. This event is considered as the trigger for Lincoln to make his first announcement as a politician and legal expert. In speaking The Perpetuation of Our Political Institutions at Young Men's Lyceum, Illinois, Lincoln discussed mob violence in America. He advised residents to obey the law. If mass violence is allowed, one day America will be led by a dictator. Another experience makes Lincoln the same attention. September 1841, on his way home from Kentucky, Lincoln came across 12 slaves who were in chains and wanted to be sold to their masters. However, the 12 slaves were still able to joke and even sing together. The incident made Lincoln sad, impressed by the attitude of the slaves. The beginning of a political career to abolish slavery in America. In 1854, Congress passed the Kansas-Nebraska Act. The content is, each state can benefit from each other, whether the country will wait later or not. The approval sparked strong protests in Kansas and Illinois, because it was considered to be considered in America. Lincoln's moral side was disturbed to see that it would run rampant. So, he went to Peoria. In front of many people, Lincoln considered the act and Congress violated the basic principles of the Declaration: all human beings are created equal. Lincoln then joined the Republican Party and became a representative at the Republican State Convention on June 16, 1858. At that time, Lincoln ran for senator. During the meeting, Lincoln gave an explanation of the phenomenal name House Divided, which gave advice in America. The election comes. Republican Lincoln against Democrat Stephen Douglas, originator of the Kansas-Nebraska Act. 10,000 people witnessed the Lincoln versus Douglas debate. Lincoln then joined the Republican Party and became a representative at the Republican State Convention on June 16, 1858. At that time, Lincoln ran for senator. During the meeting, Lincoln gave an explanation of the phenomenal name House Divided, which gave advice in America. The election comes. Republican Lincoln against Democrat Stephen Douglas, originator of the Kansas-Nebraska Act. 10,000 people witnessed the Lincoln versus Douglas debate. Emancipation Proclamation and Civil War. Abraham Lincoln's victory as the 16th President of the U.S. made the Southern countries separate themselves from the North, Union. You see, they implemented the system, while Lincoln was anti-7 Southern states and then created a new state, namely the American Confederation. Seeing his country divided, Lincoln sent a fleet of Union ships to bomb the Charleston harbor at Fort Sumter, April 12, 1861. This event started the Civil War. As Union leader, Lincoln's goal in attacking the Confederacy was to prevent expansion, because the Confederacy was central. On January 1, 1863, Lincoln declared the Emancipation Proclamation. It contained, all people who were made slaves in rebel countries would be freed. However, this rule only applies to Confederate countries. However, it did not immediately begin. Early, in America, the Emancipation Proclamation was the beginning of its abolition. This proclamation also prompted the 13th Amendment, which aims to abolish America. Thanks to the Emancipation Proclamation, 200,000 black soldiers and sailors joined the Union Army and Navy. White and black soldiers fought together to prevent the U.S. from returning. November of the same year, Lincoln delivered a brief speech at the National Funeral Service in Gettysburg. In front of about 15,000 people, Lincoln uttered 272 words that would become the most famous speech in U.S. history. The Gettysburg Address speech stated that Lincoln not only wanted to unite the U.S., but also struggled in seeking and making a profit. That speech made Lincoln called the father of democracy. Democracy, according to Abraham Lincoln, is also promoted by our country, of the people, by the people, for the people. Abraham Lincoln's death. Abraham Lincoln was re-elected President of the United States in November 1864. In his new term, Lincoln focused on making 4 million slaves after the Civil War ended. The 13th Amendment was also successfully passed on January 31, 1965. The amendments had yet to be ratified, until Lincoln had to leave for good. On the evening of April 14, 1865, Lincoln came to a show at the Ford Theater. At that time, he was accompanied by his wife, an escort officer named Major Henry R. Rathbone, and his fiancée. While watching the show, a man walked into the president's quarters and shot Lincoln. Lincoln immediately fell to the ground. Rathbone directly attacked the assassin. Unfortunately, he was directed straight from the balcony and ran away. A doctor who happened to be a spectator, Dr. Charles Leal, immediately approached Lincoln. When viewed, the bullet entered Lincoln's left ear and lodged behind his right eye. Lincoln was immediately taken to the boarding house across from the theater. Unfortunately, Lincoln died 9 hours later, April 15, 1865. Lincoln's murder is finally revealed. He was John Wilkes Booth, a Confederate sympathizer. Booth was shot and arrested while in a warehouse in Virginia and died the same day, April 26, 1865. Meanwhile, 4 of his accomplices were hanged.